language. So I can see this woman, she is walking on in, she's got that look, and she puts her foot down, and she goes, "Ken, we have too much toilet paper." And she storms out. Now, okay, in my world, having too much toilet paper isn't much of a problem. Maybe it's a storage issue, but I'd rather have too much than too little. But for that person on that day, that was her biggest concern. She wanted to bring it to me. It gets tricky. At one point I thought, well, maybe I do a closed door policy where I only have access during this time or that time, but that doesn't always work out. Sometimes people need to reach it. So what I've tried to do is set up a scenario where I tell people, if you need to come to me with some sort of complaint or concern, I want you to also bring a solution to me. Help me make that decision quickly so that I'm able to access the information, make a decision, and move on. I think this is also good because it starts to empower people so that they feel like I'm not just telling people there's a problem, I'm telling them there's a problem and I'm helping work on that. And that's a good way to cultivate future leaders as well. Let's talk a little bit about customers because we need them. We have to have them. But sometimes we do these little things to them that can mess things up, mess up our relationship, our connection with them. Is anyone here, raise your hand if you are on Facebook? Pretty healthy crowd. I knew Facebook was going to be around when my mother jumped on Facebook. My dad still is a holdout, but my mother realized, oh, I can see pictures of my grandchildren on this? Ken, how do I do it? Do you notice something with Facebook? Every once in a while, something changes on Facebook. It's called an update, or you have to change your privacy settings. This frustrates me to no end because I've gotten used to what Facebook is supplying me, what I'm getting from them, and then all of a sudden, they pull the rug out from under me and I have to learn how to do something new. I call this Facebooking your customers. People like to know what to expect from your business. If there are any changes, you really have to help move them along so they understand, well, this service used to be this much, but now it costs more. Or we've added this additional thing. You kind of have to walk them along sometimes to make sure that they're getting the full benefits of the change. People like routines. They like to know that how things were yesterday will be like it is tomorrow. This goes back to when we were kids. You remember when you were young, you'd have like preschool, then lunch, and then nap time, and then maybe jam with Sesame Street or something like that. That was your routine. You loved that routine. I grew up in Ohio. I remember if it snowed and preschool would close, I would be crying. Of course, a few years later, I'd be cheering the snow closure. But that's a different story. Don't Facebook your customers. Make sure they understand what you can do for them so that they feel comfortable with your business. Another scenario I see a lot with customer service where there's a problem can be found in most fitness centers around the country. I'll set up the scenario for you. One day you stand in front of the mirror and you're like, I'm a little bigger than I used to be and these clothes seem to be shrinking in the washer. So you realize it's time to go to a gym. And there's one nearby, so you go to the gym. And you are treated like royalty by the people there. They show you around, they show you all this equipment that's state of the art. They tell you how everything's gonna be fantastic, and you're like, yes, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And they sign you up. 12-month contract, first and second month, boom, done. So you start going back to the gym, you're having a good time. But you start to realize over time that maybe the relationship has changed. Suddenly you realize that the gym is more interested in signing up new customers than the old ones. And maybe you go to that gym and you say, hey, I noticed the bathroom isn't as clean as it used to be. And you're just kind of told, oh yeah, that's fine. That's Jenner's problem. And you say, that bike in there, it feels like the pedal's going to fall off. And, oh, that's the maintenance crew. So you feel a little neglected. And then maybe something changes in the equation. Maybe some competition opens across the street. And sometimes you'll see an exodus of people go to the new place. Maybe you're still at the same old place because it's convenient for you. And you notice that you know, there's all these new specials for incoming customers, and there's all these like balloons and fun stuff like that, but you don't need balloons. Why aren't you being treated better as a current customer? And that, I think, is the problem with so many fitness facilities, is they have a business model where I guess they feel they're always going to have lots of customers who are looking in the mirror, sizing themselves up and deciding to go to the gym. But for so many of us, if you're simply putting in more and more customers, it's like taking a balloon, filling it with water, and then putting a hole in the bottom. So you really want to make sure you're loving all your customers. If you have that consistent customer, take a time every once in a while to talk to them, to see what are the things that they are facing. Can your services help them? You know, sometimes you get used to saying, hey, we'll take 200 of this, 100 of that, go, done. Maybe they don't know everything that you do and everything you can do to help them. When a customer sees you not only as a merchant, but also as a resource, you can gain that permanent relationship with them where you become a trusted partner. That way, when the next flashy thing comes into town, you hold on to those people because they believe in who you are and what you're doing. One of the hardest things for me over the years has been accepting feedback. It goes back years, I think, to when you'd be in class and you'd have to stand up or do a spelling bee and the pressure would be on you. And I've really had to work on how I take feedback from people. Because there can be great information that customers or other people are giving you, but you have to see, are you able to hear it? So here's a few tips I want to give you about accepting feedback. The first, and this is perhaps the most beneficial, just listen. Let that person give you the information. It is very tempting to want to suddenly jump in and start to say, hey, hold your tongue. Pretend for a moment that you don't have a tongue. Let them talk, and then the great thing to say at the end, thank you. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you agree or disagree with the feedback, but you're acknowledging someone for having the guts to tell it to you. Usually feedback, I think, is well-intentioned, so you want to make sure you're able to accept it. Now let's say you get some rocket good feedback. There sometimes you have to consider the situation, because sometimes you might have done a great job, but you could still do better. I'm sure my mother would give me excellent reviews on everything I do. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm good all the time. So like a professional athlete, like a basketball player, you always want to be looking at what you're doing well and how you can do it better. You can ask the person, hey, thanks for that feedback. Is there anything you see that I might be able to improve upon? How can I make this session even better? So those are important questions that you want to be asking people. Another aspect of feedback is making sure that you keep it in perspective. You know, sometimes you will get feedback from someone and you're just like, I don't get it. You know, what was that all about? In those instances, again, thank the person for it, move on. And the final note on feedback I want to say is, don't carry it around like luggage. You know, make sure that you take the information, you absorb the information, but don't let it weigh you down.